inside the 18 live from a bunker of some sort, I think, right now. I'm Michael Majid. With me is social media sensation, as always, Omar Zini, Pro GK Academy. And joining us is actually a sensation. We have the legendary we have the legendary Cody Cropper from Houston Dynamo. Cody, first off, thanks for finding these digs for us, dude. This is next level, right?
I guess so, right? I mean, I guess all the conference rooms were taken, and the hotel staff said we could just crawl into this little hole and go from there. So
this is the kind of respect that goalkeepers get, right? They're
just push them off to the side, and they'll be all right.
It's good lighting in here, though, so I'm happy with that. Set up the lights.
I bet you what happened was, like, you came to the front desk. They're like, "Oh, we're doing an interview." They're like, "Oh, is it for like Tab or something like that?" And they're like, "No, it's some of the goalkeepers. We're gonna do some goalkeeper content." And they're like, "Well, okay, so where can we keep the goalkeepers as far away from everyone else as possible?"
You never bring up who you're interviewing. You just say Houston Dynamo, first team. Yeah, what room can you get me? And they give you the good ones, yeah.
There you go. So first off, speaking of good people, think of the fans right here, you guys. Thanks for rating, reviewing, and subscribing. You guys have been absolutely incredible with the podcast. I think we're getting close to 300 reviews now, worldwide, and that's absolutely amazing, to be honest with you, that we're getting that kind of response. I mean, honestly, when this whole thing started, I thought no one was going to pay attention at all. They're like, who's going to listen to a goalkeeping podcast? But you guys do, and it's really, really awesome. Make sure, you guys, you're leaving your Instagram handle, your social media handle, or Twitter handle in your review, so that way we can send you your prize. But we're not going to talk too much about the fanship thing right now, except for the fact that I know some of you guys have some Q&As. So we're gonna kind of get into that. And we were kind of telling Cody here that on the podcast, a lot of the times people go, I don't know if I want to do a goalkeeping podcast because honestly, I feel like it's gonna be like 45 minutes of me talking about like my collapse dive technique, and like we're not gonna do that, dude. We're not gonna do that to you. We're gonna make sure that you got something quality to talk about. So we've got some fans here, first off, that have some really good questions for you. And so first question comes from a guy named Jesse Goldman, and he runs actually Goal Line Performance. It's actually, dude, this is the craziest thing. It's a sports performance company just for goalkeeping, which is, it's pretty awesome. So shout out to Jesse Goldman for doing that, and honestly seeing that it's important. And he goes, okay, Cody, what is your off-season training regimen?
Starts off pretty slow, I'm not going to lie. To be honest, the last couple of years, I've taken a lot better care of myself in the off season, just because coming back from England, the off seasons have been so much longer, which is something that you rarely get in Europe. And I think in Europe, my longest off season was 2.5, 3 weeks. So it was tough. So like I'd come back in the off season and I wouldn't touch a ball for those 2 or 3 weeks. That's your only downtime. But since being back in the MLS and having, almost 8 to 12 weeks here or there, depending on the offseason, depending on whether making playoffs or not, or, this or that, I'm usually in and around the gym 4 or 5 times a week, and then trying to touch a ball 2 to 3 times a week to start. And then as we go, it kind of like reverses, and I'm on the field more and in the gym less, but keeping my cardio and lifting, high.
Yeah. As you guys all know, like this is like the most important time of the year. I mean, to be honest with you, and 2 to 3 weeks of off season, that's terrifying, dude. Like, how do you even let your body relax? Like
it was tough. Fortunately for me, my parents, my mom and my stepdad, own a house in Minnesota on Lake Minnetonka, which, if you know Minnesota, it's one of the bigger lakes.
I know the Chappelle Show, so I've
close enough, I guess. It's one of the bigger lakes in Minnesota, and own a boat, jet ski, everything like that. So I would go home and I would completely switch off, and it's just nice, go out, enjoy the summers, and be on the lake and see my buddies, and really go have a few beers with them, right? Like that's all you want to do. You're away for 10 months out of the year, or 11 months out of the year, and all you want to do is just see your buddies from back home. And I've got a great group of guys that I connected with from high school soccer and playing club soccer. Like Eric Miller was one of my buddies growing up, and he and I would connect every off season and still do. And it's just that's literally all you want to do is just hang out with your friends and your family and just switch off completely.
But I think that also comes through, like, anybody listening, it's like sacrifice the entire, you're sacrificing a lot. Obviously, we'll get into your past and how you left to England at a young age, but like you're not going to prom, you're not doing a lot of things that your friends are doing, so you're sacrificing that. But that fun and that kind of taking your foot off the pedal for a little bit is earned, and I think that's where the discipline comes in, and you're also rewarding yourself and like allowing yourself to just like refresh your mind so that you have that kind of eagerness and hunger to go back out there. Because if you grind too much, I have some friends who say I'm gonna grind 24/7. Like, bro, you gotta be very selective of how you grind, because you don't want to burn yourself out, and if you burn yourself out, you're not going to have that motivation to keep doing what you want to do.
Yeah, how many goalkeepers have we seen that have just burned themselves out because they just overdo it? They overtrain, and they think that they need to do more is more. So sometimes understanding like that, dude, like you're saying, that switching off allows you to have, I don't want to say like that passion again, but like all of a sudden like that spark is still there, because you're like, okay, now I got a little bit of time away from all of that, and now I can kind of get back to business,
Absolutely. I mean, it's important to just be able to shut down completely, step away from the game, and just take a step back and enjoy life.
100%.
But the discipline of, being in season and especially overseas is a lot harder, because you're away from your family, you're away from your friends, you're away from the culture in which you grew up in, because England is a very similar, country to the U.S., but it's completely different. Mm-hmm. And the further east you go, the more difference there is in culture. So it's very difficult, and being able to come home in the off seasons in those 2 to 3 weeks and just switch off and step back and enjoy the game and not be burnt out is important.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think one thing too is that you have to recognize the balance in life, not just. And I think I know we're going off of Jesse's question in regards to like off season training. And he's probably like he's like we wanted to know about like 3 sets of deadlifts. So like that's probably what he was like getting at. And like Cody's like, yeah, actually I don't do anything. I don't absolutely completely don't do anything in the off season. So why don't you take that back to goal line performance? See how that works out when you tell the parents that.
But even when we talk about like in season, for example, when you have your trainings as a goalkeeper coach, for example, myself and my college guys, sometimes it's very difficult to continuously, let's say we have, -1 right before a game. I'm not going to go out there and, bang 30, 40 balls, because I got to make sure that you're healthy and you're sharp. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll have a technical breakdown, or watch some film on a scouting report on the team we're playing. So, you're still able to stay conscientious of the end goal of obviously you're professional, but at the same time too, you're also like, I need to give my body a break while my mind can still stay sharp. But physically, it's going to be very, very hard to get into that next season and like not get burnt out after a month of preseason. It's a long season.
Yeah. You take so much beating. Just in preseason alone, at a professional level or a collegiate level, you take so much beating. And I think having that ability to, learn a lot more about yourself at this level and know what you need specifically is very important to success as a professional. Yeah. I've been, this is my going into, I believe, my 10th or 11th season, and I'm only 27. And it's like, you get to that stage and you know what your body needs. Yeah. You know that 2 days before a game, you probably shouldn't be deadlifting, 300 pounds, right? Or you go out the day before.
I don't know. Have you met some goalkeeper coaches, dude?
I have. Yeah. Some are off over here, and then some are down here, and it's like, where's the middle? But like you said, you go out the day before a game, and you don't need a high-intensity session. Yeah. You need the technical aspect, or for me at least, you need the technical aspect with a little bit of intensity. Sure. But it's to get your heart rate up, focus on the technical side of it, and then carry it into the weekend and into your performance.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on to this other question here, because I think this is actually a really important question that this kid right here has. And this goes Jimmy_DiMaggio. And dude, literally all I could think of was like, please tell me he's related to Joe DiMaggio in some way whatsoever. That would be amazing if he's like, yeah, that was my great grandfather was Joe DiMaggio, and now I'm into goalkeeping. So that's what we're doing. He goes, how do you constantly stay switched on during the game? For me, sometimes I lose focus. And for example, if a cross comes in, I might not be switched on, and I might just let it fly over instead of coming out for it. One thing you should do is you should watch the Pro GK Academy flighted ball sessions. That's what you need to do. If you watch those sessions, you're going to be switched on every time because you're like, oh, if I do it like Omar, now I know what I'm doing.
There you go.
Dude, honestly, I think even at the pro level, this is something difficult.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a great question. I think that for me, the last couple of years, something that I've really worked on off the field is like the mental fortitude. I've done a lot of like sports psychology training with Stuart Singer out of New England. He actually lives and works in Massachusetts, but he has a partnership with the WNBA team out of Washington, works with Rice University. I know he works with a few of the other players in the MLS. But it's amazing to see what you can do off of the field in terms of meditation or focusing on, if I make a mistake during a game, getting my mind back to a certain state of, okay, I've made that mistake, it's in the past, now can I move on? And I think that this ties into that. Maybe you're not always 100% on or 100% concentrated, but it's realizing that you're not concentrated or that you're not locked into that exact moment and going, okay, now I need to bring it back to within myself and then go from there. Yeah. And I think, that you can do that by concentrating not only on the field but off the field as well.
I think the biggest point right there that I think what I got from that is just kind of reverse engineering and understanding what it is that in a game, for example, for me personally was how can I stay engaged, and it was communication.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think at a young age, my mom or somebody who's watched me play was like, you need to find a way to stay engaged in the game. Like obviously my team was really good, and the better goalkeepers find good teams because that's kind of how it works.
Absolutely.
So at a young age, we're not getting a lot of shots.
All right.
So we're beating teams.
I don't know what that says about me. The fact that I was always switched on. It was like
we were beating Mike's team 8-0. But no, and then it's like at a young age, you have to figure out a way to stay engaged. And I had ADD, so I was always like looking at the grass or like my shoes were untied,
100%.
and I was like, what can I tie my shoes? And I'm like focusing on something else. But then you have to kind of reverse engineer and figure out, oh, okay, well maybe communication is my outlet to keep myself sharp and engaged. Absolutely. Then after time, I used to go from very negative communication where my defenders would be like, dude, shut up, to now I'm just like, okay, figure out a way to keep clear, concise, direct, making sure that what you're saying is being received by your players in a positive manner.
Absolutely.
So now you're not only engaging yourself, but you're engaging your players. And then from there, like you said, the next level after that, maybe the biggest layer for you is the visualization, the mental approach in the game. And then I think a lot of times it's very difficult for the younger goalkeepers to do that because they're very there's a lot of stuff going on in their life, so it's very difficult for them to really recenter or have like allotted time for yoga or for like a sports psychologist. Yeah. But like you played at the highest levels in England and here in the US as well, so that there's going to be a lot of tabloids, news, people out there trying to say whatever they want to say about you. There's pressure on you from contracts or whatever. So you have to be able to find that next layer of your own self, your own being, and figure out how that can translate to the field.
Yeah, I remember when I was sitting on a bench in a PDL. There's just the media was just so. They were just so bombarding me. They're just like, dude, we need to know why you're not switched on that bench, man.
I would recommend the Do So app. It's through Stuart Singer. It is. You can pay, I believe it's a $34.99 a year annual subscription, or you can do a few of his workouts, as he calls them, workouts for free, through the Do So app on the App Store.
Have you heard of Dan Abrahams?
Promo here.
Dude, seriously, what's Dan Abrahams?
Yes, I've worked with Dan Abrahams. I worked with him in England.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Southampton. Yeah.
You're one of the people that he could not talk about. That's great. I love the fact that now it's official, dude. We love Dan Abrahams. We actually had
great.
Last week we had an episode with Dan Abrahams on where he talked about his high performance mindset. Yep. I would tell Jimmy. who I just was going to call DiMaggio, and it just sounded too weird. I was like,
DiMaggio.
Yeah.
Hey,
You
DiMaggio.
told Jimmy D. Look, listen, Jimmy D.
Jimmy D. Oh, my goodness.
No, listen, Jimmy D. So what you got to do is listen to the episode with Dan Abrahams.
What is
We
this?
end
Such a
up cutting it
disaster.
out. No, we talked with with somebody yesterday. She's talking about she worked at Jimmy John's, one of
Okay.
our friends, and she was saying how like crazy they have people who come in and they time you how you make your sandwich. Like they make sure you put like the mayo, the lettuce, the tomatoes, all in under 10 seconds. Like it's
chance,
very
bro.
weird. It's very weird.
If I'm making a sandwich, I'm like, this goes here, and then wait, I forgot this, so this comes off, and then I put this on, right?
Right,
Like
yeah.
I'm very tedious about like
Yep.
my food, and it's like
Well, because you're
I'm not throwing it on a bun rapidly, right? Like
Dude,
it's
well,
like
as a goalkeeper, you're meticulous. You're very careful about your craft. and
creatures
you-
of habit.
You would take
Creatures
it the
of
same
habit.
way as if you were making a sandwich,
Yeah.
you know? No, listen to the episodes with Dan. We did an entire episode in regards to the psychology of goalkeeping about a year ago with Dan when we first met him in Chicago. And then this year in Baltimore, you know, we did a follow-up with that, and he talked about game preparation and high-performance mindset. So, you know, you right there are just living proof right there how important sports psychology is
Yeah.
at the professional level.
Yeah, I mean, I explored sports psychology during the 2018-2019 seasons when personally I was going through a tough time. I didn't know whether I should continue to play the game. I didn't know, I was just going through mental battles. I've always known that I'm a good goalkeeper, and there are guys out there that would say the same thing, but maybe one thing doesn't go your way, or you're not playing, and you start to second guess a lot of what you do, and not just on the field but off of it as well. And I connected with Stuart Singer through Kellen Rowe and through the Revolution training staff, the ATCs, and it was one of the best things I ever did. It not only just helped me get my confidence back, but it helped me be okay with myself in terms of no matter what happens on the field, I've, done this and I've done that, and I'm here for a reason. Yeah. And I'm okay with myself and my situation regardless of what it is. And that's off the field. But then on the field, he helped me in terms of getting that confidence back and finding that ability to make a mistake and get over it in a timely manner, to be able to deal with what comes next. Yeah. Because in a game situation, how often do goalkeepers make a mistake or field players make a mistake, and you have that amount of time to get over it? Yeah. And a lot of people will go, okay, well, I made that mistake. Now I'm going to crumble into a pile on the floor. Yeah. And, you can't do that, because at a professional level, what is expected of you? You're expected. You're expected by the fans, by the media, by your teammates to be able to deal with that pressure. And it's not always easy. If you think about players like Danny Rose, or you look at the NBA, Kevin Love, you deal with tough times as a professional, even though you're, making millions of dollars. Like it unfortunately for MLS players, that's not a reality. But
Hold on. I heard about the new CBA. I heard
it's a lot better.
You guys at least have
we're
tens of dollars coming into you.
Yes,
It's
the players union is very happy with the new CBA, but we're still not at the NBA level or the NFL level. Yeah. And unfortunately, we're perceived to make millions of dollars, and that's not the case. Yeah. But it all comes back to, having the confidence and the ability to be okay with yourself and be okay with where you are and overcome all of that.
Yeah. I think this episode should just be called Cody Cropper Believes in Sports Psychology.
There you go. Right there.
And
So
just literally
at this point, because of that statement, I think we should probably move on to something else, but so that the title of the show is not that, but
that would be amazing. And then if literally it just had in the little show card, it had a promo code for that app.
Do so.
With yeah. With a thumbs up by Cody. They'd be like, okay, and then you send that over to them. You're like, how much is that worth?
Yeah, right.
Because again,
I'm not sure Stu's paying out for me, but it's okay. Maybe I get next year's subscription for free.
So let's talk about today's topic. And today's topic is something that we get asked a lot of times, because let's be honest, youth keepers, college keepers, the professional keepers, as goalkeepers, it's very difficult because only one can play a lot of the times. Mm-hmm. So a lot of us are always moving on to different teams, and whether it's a loan situation,
Journeyman.
whether we're a guest player for another club as a youth player, whether we're transferring to a new college because there's not an opportunity at the different school. All three of us have been through this journey, and we've seen it all the different levels. Now, Cody, you've seen it at honestly, literally all the different levels. And so I thought my gosh, if anybody could give a little perspective and a little advice to kids out there, it would be you. So let's just kind of start about the whole loan situation thing, because, this is something that you're very familiar with. And so what comes about usually when a player goes on loan? It's not always necessarily because they lack the ability to play at that club, but a lot of times it's more because the club is looking to move them forward as a player, right?
Absolutely. Whether you're going to guest play for a club team, like you said, or at a professional level, you're going on loan. I think the majority of it is to get minutes. Obviously, the parent club that you're playing for wants you to go out and wants you to get game time. And, the situation here at Houston is there are 3 good goalkeepers, and at some point, 1 or 2 of us will have to go out on loan to get minutes with RGV. And that's just the reality of the position, because only 1 goalkeeper can play on a Saturday. And that's the reality. And fortunately, we here at Houston have ties to RGV who will allow us to come in and send players on loan to get minutes for the first team for the betterment of the Houston Dynamo to help that player develop. But unfortunately, a lot of clubs don't have those ties, and sometimes young players or 2s or 3s get pushed to the wayside for the betterment of the 18. And that's unfortunate, especially in the U.S., because in Europe you have a much larger scale with 3 or 4 tiers in every country, and it works out to be, well, if we're in the Premier League, he doesn't go to the championship, we can send him to a League 1 or a League 2 team, or even a Conference North, Conference South team. There's 7 or 8 great divisions in England where you can go on loan to. Here there's 1 or 2.
So do you feel that the security factor? I mean, Omar and I, we've talked about this because Omar, I don't know if you know this, Omar has a very popular Instagram channel and YouTube channel with a lot of training videos, and he does an off-season training series with a lot of pros, especially at the USL level. And like you're talking about in regards to the level of security, did you feel like in the UK that people felt a little more secure? They're like, hey, if it doesn't work out for me here, I know I'm going to find somewhere. And here, guys are a little freaked out a little bit more, and that comes back to that sports psychology mindset.
I think yes, and I think no. I think that as a youth player, like a young pro, you have to be prepared to go out on loan. And in England, in Europe, when I was there, every player in the academy at Ipswich or every player in the academy at Southampton knew that at some point you would probably go out on loan to get minutes in a first team, because minutes in a first team against men is completely different to minutes in a reserve game versus U23s. It's completely different level, because men are stronger, men are bigger, they're faster, they're more athletic, they're smarter on the ball. Whereas when you're playing in a reserve game at under 23s, it's still a developmental game. And here, fortunately, we have MLS. Unfortunately, we do not have a reserve league, but we have USL Championship and USL 1, which are still very good levels. And as a youth team player, or not a youth team player, but a young pro in MLS, you have to be prepared to go out on loan, because that's where you're going to get your minutes if you're not playing in the first team.
Yeah, so what does that mental framework look like? So, for example, you were with Southampton when you were younger, Ipswich Town when you were younger as well in England. And in those times where obviously you may not have gotten, those first team minutes, what was your mental framework like? Is it just with the understanding, even here in the U.S., that when you are with a professional team or the situation may not look as pretty as you thought it was going to be, you have to be, I guess, with that mental framework and the approach of like, I'm going to have to be okay if I want to take this to the next level. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to be okay with being sent on loan to get the quality minutes, because I know that it may be in an uncomfortable position, or it may take me out of my comfort zone, but the macro, the big picture is exactly what I want, and this is going to direct me there. So what was your mental framework like? Did you come in with that approach, or were you kind of like, was it tailored or like pushed into that?
I would say you learn that mental approach, that mental fortitude to be okay with it. I think it's a very difficult concept to wrap your head around at 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, coming from America over there to Europe, or,
That must have been just the biggest culture shock out of it.
Oh, 100%. Fortunately for me, my family's English, and I still have family that lives there, so I kind of knew.
I could tell in the accents that.
Here we go.
No, I know.
But, I think over there, it's a different culture. Like when you get outside of the U.S., it is a completely different game.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a game. It is a lifestyle. It's a culture. It's a brotherhood. It's completely different. Kids over there are raised in the game of football. They bleed colors that they
support.
that they support. And here, unfortunately, it is not at that level yet. It is getting that way because with the expansion of MLS, with the expansion of bringing different cities in, it's bringing different cultures, it's combining, and I think that that's also another test or tribute to the MLS is how many different cultures does MLS speak to? I mean,
few.
Well,
10,
look
15, 20.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
yeah. We're just looking at Houston right there. Just
I
a
think
melting pot
yeah,
of different groups and cultures.
I think on the Dynamo alone we have 10 to 20 different nationalities, and that's amazing. That as a corporation, as a business, as a unit, we find a way to make it work. And it has been, since I've been in, it has been tough at times because you have so many different languages. You have English, you have Croatian, you have different variations of Spanish, you have different variations of, Eastern European languages that, translate here but don't translate here.
Yeah.
You have, all of these different cultures combining into one, and you find a way to make it work. It's because, like I said, it's a brotherhood.
How do you start becoming? I don't want to say like you'll feel comfortable in the environment, because a lot of times, like, obviously you're talking about your playing career in the UK, and going from Southampton's youth academy, and then all of a sudden going to a professional environment in a completely different city. Like, how did you integrate yourself immediately to feel like, okay, I am part of this club now, as opposed to just like some outsider who's just kind of here just to get reps.
Well, I think for me, it's been a learning curve because, like you said, I've done it so many times. Unfortunately,
yeah.
I say unfortunately, but
Hold
I've loved every minute of it.
But let's look at it the other way. If you want to take it from the positive aspect, is, dude, look at all the experiences you've had.
Correct.
Some guys have never had, who've been
Absolutely.
at one club their entire lives.
Absolutely, and I say it unfortunately in terms of like having had to pick up and move and do this, or move across the world, halfway across the world. But again, like you said, it is a positive transition because I've been there and I've experienced something that a lot of players haven't. And I count myself very fortunate to have done that. But to get back to the topic,
Yeah.
I think it's something that I've learned over time, that you kind of just have to go in and be yourself. You have to be confident. You have to go in and as a goalkeeper, you learn very quickly that you are a leader on the field. Whether you like it or not, know it or don't, you're a leader because you're always communicating. You're directing your back four. You're directing the players in front of you, and people look to you to lead. And you may not wear the captain's armband, or you may not be the second choice captain or the third choice captain, but you are still a leader. And for me, that's something that I've learned over the years, and learned from some of the best, in my opinion, such as Kelvin Davis or Fraser Forster, Richard Wright at Ipswich Town. I've Dave Martin, when he was at MK Dons, now plays for West Ham United. I've seen these guys help the younger players, or put an arm around one guy or an arm around this guy and kind of go, look, you're new to the team, I'm going to help you integrate. But at the same time, I've also seen them go, well, I'm in an uncomfortable position, but I have to show that I'm not uncomfortable, and I have to go in and I have to lead from the first day that I step in there. And when I came to Houston, that was one of the first things. I don't speak fluent Spanish. I speak very broken Spanish. But, I came in, I knew Christian Ramirez, I knew Zarek Valentin, and I knew Tab Ramos. And I kind of made it a thing to go.
So you knew 3 kids at
I
the
know,
new school.
I knew two kids and the teacher.
And the teacher, okay,
and the
there you
teacher.
go. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
hey, don't hold that one against me.
Okay, no, I won't.
But, I made a very conscious effort to go in and shake every player's hand on that first day and introduce myself. And then in training, you're starting to pick up a name here or a name there. But when you go into, say, small-sideds, you make a conscious effort to go, hey, you start with the back 2, the back 3, the back 4 with whatever, size field you're playing on. You go, hey, what's your name? And then, okay, so your name's Andrew or your name's Zarek. Okay, so now I've got these 2 guys. Now I'm working with these 2 guys for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Then the next day you come back and it's another set of defenders. And you're like, okay, so what's your name? And then slowly...
You sure you're not playing Sunday men's league? Is it different form?
I don't know. I'm saying in 2v2s, 2v3s, 4v4s, different size fields, right? And then you work your way up to 11v11s and you got a flat back 4. Or, even sometimes you've got, 5 at the back. So, you're learning these names and they start to stick. And then you slowly become friends with them. And you're in the locker room and you're putting your arm around one another. You're making that contact that, shows friendship.
For sure.
And it's like, okay, well, this is the right way to do it. But you have to be confident within yourself, in my opinion, to do that and to make those advancements.
Yeah, I think for me personally, the biggest misconception, I think, whether that's through social media or people downplay it on TV when they answer questions about the camaraderie and chemistry within a team, is that the misconception that I had was whenever I went to a new school or whenever I went to, join a new team, it was that, I saw other friends join their team and I could see them already being friends right away, when really everybody has a different type of personality. Yeah. Me personally, I'm more of I'm outgoing once I get to know you. But when I was younger, I used to see my friends who were just outgoing no matter what. And I would kind of use where I was and try to, my worst characteristics and compare them to my friends' best ones or other people's best characteristics. And again, you're setting yourself up for failure because it's very difficult to meet that standard when that's not you. Right. So it sounds to me like it's just a process. And I think a lot of kids, when you're moving to a new team, when you're stepping into a new environment, do understand what you're good at in terms of people, in terms of how you get to know people. But it's a process, something you have to work at. It's not going to be you step in and right away you're going to be friends or you command that trust from your defenders. Absolutely. No, little by little, like you said, you walk over, you shake everybody's hand. It may not have been something you did when you were 15 going to Ipswich, but your perspective is so much different though, because you're 27, I'm 27, and you're in terms of experience being in a locker room full of men and being in a new culture, new environment. You kind of had to expedite your maturity level and just become a man in a sense of if you want to be heard in a locker room full of men, you have to be the one to initiate that.
You have to be boisterous. You have to be loud.
Real quick, and just, if you don't mind, just kind of explaining that process, and to any young kid out there who may think that moving to a new team is this crazy thing, can you kind of in a short, maybe 30 seconds, explain the process of how they should kind of approach that maybe would allow them to not see it from such a crazy perspective, but more of I can actually do this with a process and a plan.
Right. Well, first of all, I think I'm going to tie this back into mental fortitude and sports psychology, because one of the things that Stuart works on or has worked on with me is you can't compare yourselves to others, because when you compare yourselves to others, you're seeing only the best of them. You're seeing their ability to be outgoing, their speed, their strength, and you're comparing it to maybe something that's not as to the same category within yourself, and you're going, well, I'm not as strong, I'm not as fast, I'm not as outgoing, but you excel in other areas. Sure. So you can't compare yourself to other people. You have to be okay with what you are and who you are, and be able to walk into a locker room and go, well, this is me, and I'm going to use these abilities to be the leader that the position requires and that the team needs and that I know that I can be. And that's something that I've learned the last 10 years is, you walk into a locker room and you can't be the quiet kid who sits in the corner. You have to learn how to adjust and connect with kids or teammates or coaches. And for me, one of the biggest things was first time you meet somebody, firm handshake, eye contact, my name's Cody. And you instantly demand
sets the tone.
Presence.
Yeah,
it sets the tone of I'm here for business.
Yes.
I want to be here for business, but at the same time, I want to be your friend.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm coming over and introducing myself.
Yeah.
I think one of the really good things, and I want all the kids out there who are watching this or listening to this to hear this, is that a lot of you are probably going like, well, you guys haven't talked anything about like footwork and handling and like handling across and stuff like that, because that's completely superfluous to what we're talking about right now. When it talks to making an impression with a team, with a new team, it's not about what you're doing on the field. It's what you're doing off the field that's really going to make the difference. Like, in regards to the job stuff, like that's going to work itself out. You go out there and you try to do the best job that you can do. But the way to really integrate yourself is to have that human connection with everybody, whether that's the players and the coaching staff. And honestly, whether it's the number one veteran alpha keeper who's played in World Cups or anything like that, or the young 15-year-old kid who just got brought up from the youth academy to train with you guys, but to find a human connection with everyone, and that's really how you integrate yourself with the team, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just being yourself and using those tools that you have is what's going to set you aside from somebody who's pretending to be something that they're not. And that instantly draws connection, in my opinion.
Yeah, how important, I want to ask you, how important is it to develop a relationship immediately with the other goalkeepers?
Beyond measure. I think going into an environment where you're going to work with 2 or 3 guys every single day, at least in a professional environment, having the friendship, going out and connecting outside of the game, grabbing dinner, grabbing a coffee, texting here and there about something that, happened in training, a joke that, you're going to, pick on the goalkeeping coach tomorrow. Like we've all been there, and like this year with Michael and Marco, we've really connected in terms of just an overall good group, but we always pick on Raj. Like whether it's his accent or
you guys,
phrases that he says, or he goes, "This one's for your eyes," and then 5 seconds later we'll turn around to each other and go, "Well, this one's for your eyes." It's just like like you have a little bit of banner, and I know he's not going to like that. I'm sorry, Paul, but
well, I mean, dude, the thing is, I think you guys are just brave souls. I mean, because Paul Rogers is a very intimidating looking man.
He is.
Like when
he
you,
is
when
very
you look
intimidating.
I remember the first time, honestly, I met him. So I was working first goalkeeper camp I ever worked with, Soccer Plus. And he was the director of that camp. It was in San Diego. And I remember the first day, and he looks at me, and I'm striking a ball. He's like, if you can't strike a ball, you're not going to make a very good goalkeeper coach, are you? And I'm not doing it in the accent because I'm terrified of him. But at that second moment, I was like, I can't strike a ball because Paul. And I to this day, I don't know if he was messing with me or if he was being completely honest.
Oh no, you never know. He has one tone, and it's serious. And he's a great guy. And he's a great goalkeeping coach. From what I've experienced so far, he's been, as Marco would say, top. But
I really hope he does this too. I hope he does this too, like top like that.
Top.
Yeah.
Top.
But I think from a different perspective, we could take it as like from the coach's perspective as well. It's important when you have a new goalkeeper or somebody maybe younger doesn't have experience or older and has experience. It's like, hey, look, when you're coming into the team, it's our job as well to help you integrate. And I think that is, I mean, from the coach's side of things, I think that's really important to make sure that it comes back to the effort. In life, a lot of times it's like, there are certain, say, for example, MLS team is in town. Sometimes like I might be shy or don't want to reach out to the goalkeeper that's coming in to play Galaxy or LAFC. But when I do, they want to meet up for coffee, and now we're establishing a friendship.
Yeah, absolutely.
As easy as that may seem, a lot of times, like you said, you have to get to know yourself before you can embrace others.
100%.
And that kind of comes back to the confidence aspect of embracing as a coach is you need to understand what you want as a coach and what you want from your goalkeeping unit. If you only want to focus on the starter, there's no way you're going to make the effort to integrate anybody else.
Right.
But if you want to establish a good goalkeeping culture, a good goalkeeping unit, you have to be able to make that effort, intentional effort, to say, look, Cody, I know you're a new guy here. This is how we do things. I know you've had this great experience. We have maybe a 22-year-old who's coming in for some sessions. Can you also just make sure that you can relay my information to that, because he may not get everything from
Right.
me. So it's just like that effort that you have to make the intent to do. And then from there, I think that's where you set the tone, like you said, with that handshake, because you made the effort to go, you know what? I'm going to step up to somebody. I'm going to show them why I'm here. You have fun, have some banter. But once you step on the field, it's got to be a switch.
Dude, yeah.
And that's the understanding that I
100%.
think a lot of young kids need to understand is like, we can say all this stuff about making an impression, but at the end of the day, Cody Cropper is being brought into Houston Dynamo because he's being brought in to fight for that number one job.
Yeah.
And that's the business side of things, which unfortunately you've had to learn.
Yeah, 100%.
But you have to leave that on the field. You got to leave that on the field.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a good relationship when you first come to a new club, you're going to have that on the field. All right, I want to talk about this, and this is one of those things that, by the way, I love the thing what you said in regards to the handshake thing. I think I'm going to steal that. I'm going to tell every kid that because that's absolutely brilliant. Just looking them in the eye and just that handshake, because that's that. A lot of people don't do that, man.
No, especially in today's like day and age, today's society, that has gone by the wayside. And one thing that I can firmly say that I learned from my father or from my grandfathers was a firm handshake just demands attention. Like it doesn't demand attention, it demands respect.
It does, yeah.
In when I give a man a firm handshake or a woman a firm handshake, they immediately draw eye contact with you.
Yeah.
And they go, "Wow, that was a firm handshake. I'm gonna remember him."
For sure. And it's like you said, it's like it will set the tone, but it also again establishes for you that that your business as well. Like you really do want to take that personal connection with somebody seriously.
Yeah.
And like you said, in the business world, anywhere you go, a firm handshake has been synonymous with this person means business or this person is here to get something done.
Right.
And I feel like that's the initial line of respect. And then once someone has your respect, like your defenders or your back four, center mids, your teammates, your coach, they have your respect, then they have your trust. Once they have your trust, now you've established that friendship that allows you to create layers and create that banter.
Absolutely.
What's the craziest thing is always like whenever I meet like a massive goalkeeper. You see, I'm using the UK phrasing here, the massive goalkeeper, as in like a big, huge guy. That firm handshake literally becomes a firm like full of my arm shake, and it's like I'm like wow,
hands.
yeah, I've just got gravitated into this human being right here. So I'm definitely connected with this person now. I want to talk about one of the mistakes that a lot of people make when they first join a new team, and that is they try too hard. And I think it's something that I just see a lot. Maybe it's not at the professional level, but at the youth level.
Definitely at the professional level.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, there are always people that try too hard. And it varies in whichever way that person is trying to be assert themselves. But it does happen. Okay. It happens at every level, I would say.
Okay, so then kids out there, then I want you to know that if Cody Cropper says it happens at the professional level, then it can happen at your U9 level. It's totally cool.
Real quick, can we? Yeah. So as we talked about before that we got on camera, just like your experience and like your history from a youth going from I forget which club did you play for when you were younger?
In the U.S.
In the U.S.
So now they are Minnesota Thunder Academy.
Was it Shattuck?
No.
Okay.
It was Bangu Tsunami was the club that I played for out of Minnesota. Oh, damn. But yeah, crazy name, wild name.
Oh, wait, hold on. Bangu Tsunami?
Yeah. But then
that wasn't like an ASO All-Star team?
No, it was pretty wild. So Bangu Tsunami then like collided with Wings in another club, and they became MTA. Okay. They all branched and under the MTA name, and now MTA is like battling with Shattuck and battling with Minnesota United Academy.
Okay.
But I never actually played for MTA. I was only a Bangu boy.
Okay.
Like Eric Miller was a Bangu boy. I don't know why I keep saying boy. It sounds super weird now. But
well, and you know what it sounds like? It sounds like a really festive, like organized gang. Like,
right? Like Bangu, we're
like the Bangu boys.
Bangu Tsunami.
the Bangu boys.
Yeah. So from there, so you were obviously your dad's English, and then from there you were seen by Ipswich.
No, I was actually seen. He connected with Chris Ramsey, who a couple years ago was basically the head of the academy at Tottenham Hotspur.
Wow.
my father and Chris were very, very good friends when I was a boy. And my dad reached out to Chris and got a contact list of a few clubs that might be looking for 16, 18-year-old goalkeeper. Sent an email kind of explaining who I was, what I was doing, how big I was, this, that, and the other thing.
Sure.
And got a few nibbles from like Wolverhampton, Stoke City, Leicester. I think I went to Arsenal at one point. I trained with Tottenham's youth team. And then eventually ended up going to Ipswich Town on trial for, I think, a 2-week period, signed there for 3 years. And then I signed a 1.5 years under a scholar contract, like a schoolboy contract.
Okay.
Where I was going to school, but not like U.S. school. It was like, their version of, I guess, the equivalent. It's not called high school. Because I left, this was all happening at like 15, 16, 17 years old. So I never actually graduated high school. And then I went into my 1.5 years pro, so I spent 3 seasons at Ipswich. Then I went to Southampton for 3 years, and then K Dons for 3 years. And then came back and signed with the Revolution, and now Houston Dynamo.
Did you spend it? I know we're going completely off the topic here, but I want to talk about, because Southampton has a reputation. Do you feel that was an incredible experience in regards to what they have in regards to an academy structure there?
Yeah. There are very few clubs that are structured like that throughout the world. I think the structure there is, they have guys, or kids, I say guys, kids that are 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, and it's like these guys come in every day and they go to school through a program that is set up through Southampton, and then they train through a program that's set up by Southampton. It's, they breed soccer players, they breed footballers, and that's all they do. Their academy is structured so well, and it's been set up, and then the advantage is that the first team sees that talent, sees that ability, and just plucks them up. And if they're not performing, they send them back down for game time.
Yeah.
If you're 16, 17, 18 years old, you still play in the under 18s every weekend, unless you're good enough to be playing for the 23s, or you're good enough to be playing in the first team. And, they are creating an environment in which you're playing every weekend at a level, and then if you're good enough, you go up. If you're good enough, you go up again. If you're not good enough, you go down, and you play and you play and you play and you get your minutes. And it sets that it ties back into what we were talking about earlier. It sets that mind frame of, okay, well, I'm not performing with the first team. I'm not getting minutes. I'm going to go down and I'm going to get my minutes with the 23s, or I'm going to go out on loan and get my minutes with a League 2 team or a League 1 team, or this or that. And it's an amazing setup, and it's an amazing accomplishment for what that club has been able to create.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So once you go back to like the initial your Bongo boys, was it
Bangu Tsunami boys?
But you go from there,
dude. I want to see the logo.
I gotta see. It was actually really cool. It was just it was like a wild phoenix.
Can you send us one?
Yeah, maybe. Let me see if I can find
one.
If
you can find it, dude.
Keep going. So you go from that team. I can't even say the big boys, and then you
just say BB, B squared.
Then you go from there, and you get into your dad. Your dad kind of sets you up with different trials. You finally sign with Ipswich. And from there, what was your mentality like going from, being 15, 16, 17 years old, and now you're moving across, halfway across the world to England? What was that approach like in terms of your mentality? Were your parents, have they been priming you and getting you ready for this moment? Have your youth coaches gotten you ready for this moment? Or what was that like? Can you just take me into Cody Cropper's mind, 15, 16 years old, where this is on the brink of happening?
So, brink of happening. First of all, Bangu Tsunami logo right there. Yeah. Solid.
Oh, wow.
Solid.
That's like very European.
Yeah, super European, right? So, I don't know if it was like that far along when I played there, but like it was.
It's like the Bayer
not bad, right?
text.
Like,
that's actually pretty solid. I was expecting like a Saturday morning cartoon type situation.
Unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. I'm kind of
or
excited that it was not like that.
Like a big wave with like a hang ten. Like that thing.
But it does sound like a surfer.
Oh, it totally does.
But anyways, going back, so I'm finishing up my
freshman year,
sophomore year of high school soccer. sophomore year? Yeah, sophomore year of high school soccer. Just been with my buddies Matt Kelly and Alec Monasterio, who were going into their junior year. I was going into my sophomore year, I believe. And I was, with those two, I was voted captain for the next year. And this is at the banquet, the end of season banquet, and I come out of that banquet and I get the phone call from my dad, and I'm like, he's like, hey, you can go to England, like, oh, cool, like, like I've always wanted to play there, but like, is this real? I was just voted like my high school captain. I'm gonna miss this. I'm gonna miss it. Like, this is what I've wanted my entire, you look at it and you set yourself goals, and for me at one point, being my high school captain was one of those goals. And my dad goes, look, well, you can either stay and be your high school captain, or you can go to England and play at this level. And he puts it in front of you like that. And I'm like, well, this doesn't make sense. Why am I choosing this over this? I'm going to go here. So we end up going with this decision. But the hardest part was convincing my mom that, to let, at this point, my parents are divorced. I live with my mom in Minnesota, and my dad lives in Georgia, where they both still coincidentally live. But convincing my mom to let her 15, 16-year-old son move halfway across the world was probably one of the toughest decisions or toughest conversations that my dad had to have, and I think that I ended up having to have too, because it was like something that at the end of the day I wanted to do and I wanted to experience. And I think I kind of guilted my mom into it in terms of like, you're going to take this away from me? Like, how could you? And I think I made my mom feel like a little bit like an a-hole, but for like trying to take it away from me. But looking back on it, I understand, because I don't have kids of my own, but I can relate to. For sure. I live away from my wife now, and it's like I can't imagine letting a 16-year-old son go, let alone living, across the U.S. from my wife. For sure. Right? Like, it's difficult when you live apart, but halfway around the world to somebody that you literally gave birth to is probably not an easy let go.
It's funny because at 15, 16, you don't understand the gravitas of that move whatsoever. You're like, this sounds awesome.
Yeah. Well, at that age, all you can concentrate on is me.
Yeah.
Right? And like, even until about 3 or 4 years ago, I think to the point where I asked my wife to marry me, I was still me. Yeah. Like at 25, 26 years old, I was still like that. Not sure that's something to like brag about. It's like, so don't be that guy. But it's crazy because, like you said, at that age, it's about me and it's about what I want to do. But you just don't understand to that level of what that decision means.
The magnitude to how it affects everybody else around you.
The magnitude of that decision, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of that, I want to talk about the national team. Because that is, talk about stepping into first day of school of an environment unlike any other you'd probably been in before in regards to the senior national team. How do you, when you go into an environment where you, I don't want to say you're the lowest person on the totem pole type of a situation, but
you are.
Yeah, but you are. Yeah. Why I didn't want to be disrespectful
not at all.
In that situation
Not at all.
Right there. But where because this is a similar thing. This happens a lot of times, and a lot of guys when they go to college for the first year, their freshman year or their first year pro, they can't handle the fact that they're not the alpha. So what advice do you give to those players that they go into that environment? And maybe using yourself as an example from your experience. That
I think not only did I experience lowest man on the totem pole in terms of U.S. national team, but like when you're at a club that's playing in the Premier League, or when you're at a club that is playing in the MLS and you're not the first guy, you have to be able to learn from the guys that are in front of you. So you're referring to my time with the men's national team. Tim Howard, Brad Guzan, Nicky Raimondo. Historically, 3 of the best goalkeepers that not only the MLS has seen, or to the point of Timmy and Brad, but those guys have played in Premier League, this is probably two historically, probably top 25 goalkeepers in England in the English Premier League, or even in the Championship for Brad.
Yeah.
But that the US have seen, and it's like you go into that and you're like, wow, like I'm 19, 20 years old and I'm in the same camp as these guys. I'm on the same level, and looking back on it, I wasn't ready. But you're not the alpha. You quickly realize that because these guys are playing at a level that is miles above you, because they are playing in the Premier League week in and week out. They're playing in the MLS week in and week out. They're playing in a World Cup every 4 years. They're playing national team games every international break. And you go into these camps and you quickly realize that you have to be a sponge. It doesn't matter what environment you're in, whether you're the alpha, whether you're not the alpha, whether you're the best goalkeeper for your country or the best goalkeeper for your club or not. It is literally going into that environment and becoming a sponge and learning everything that you can.
For sure.
And finding what works for you is the main, is the main key, because the amount of goalkeeping coaches that I've worked with and the amount of different style goalkeeping coaches and then different style goalkeepers that I've worked with is a broad spectrum. But you get down to it and you sponge off this guy, you sponge off this guy, you sponge off this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. But you find what works for you. And that was actually some of the best advice that I got from both Kelvin Davis and Timmy Howard, was you have to learn everything, sift through it, and find what works for you.
Yeah.
Whether it's distribution, hands, set position, set shape, decision-making, everything.
I mean, we ran a clinic yesterday, and I one of the things that I stressed, and I believe Omar stressed it as well too, is that, ultimately we're here to give you tools for your toolbox and to give you some education, but we're not playing the game. So you can't rely on the coach to make the decisions for you. You have to be willing to improvise in a game, because not every situation is going to be the same. And, and sometimes it's going to call for a block save here, and in another one you're going to go into a cobra shape and go down into the smother, or whatever anybody calls it nowadays. I don't know. I'm old school.
I've never even heard cobra shape. So I was shocked when he pulled that one. I was like, what? It's a cobra shape.
Ask Raj. That was a big Tony DeChico thing.
Okay, I'm gonna ask him that tomorrow.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
I think one thing that every time we have a guest on, I like you said, being a sponge and just learning and listening and trying to understand your concepts and how you, let's say you sift through it, but how you are able to process the information that you're hearing from us, or you're hearing, that you from your experiences, how you relay that back. I'm learning that as well. And from what I just took from there is that, we talked about it early in the podcast, not even about goalkeeping, but more on the human side, the EQ, the emotional intelligence aspect, is that you need to be able to be versatile as a person, where you're stepping into these new environments. For example, you're getting called into the first team, you're the first national team. You're stepping in there. You're stepping in with these guys who are giving you the idea of, look, you're the young guy here, you need to be a sponge. And then from there, then you go to the U20 World Cup, you're taking that information that you're listening from the first team or from Southampton or from Ipswich, you're taking all that information that you may not even be a starter, you may be on the bench or whatever, but you're getting all that information. Then once you actually are pushed into that starting role, or you're fighting for that starting role, then you become the starter for the World Cup in the U20s. Now you're able to take all that information that you've learned, you've been able to kind of sit behind the scenes, and now you're the one who's being asked, hey, we need you to be the leader. But now you have all that gathered information because you had that perspective of, maybe I'm not the guy, but maybe one day I will be. So why 100%. Don't I take all this information? And again, it goes down to the perspective, and again, it goes down to the mentality. It's very deeply layered, but everybody needs to have that mental framework of understanding where you are, but not just where you are, but where you want to go. And being
patient enough to know that you're going to get there someday.
Yes, exactly. But all those little skill sets, all those little tools in your toolbox, like we even spoke about, who was it recently? Zach Lubin, who's on Phoenix Rising. Mm-hmm. So he didn't play that often in his career, but over time he stuck with it learned all these new principles from different coaches, learned behind Carl, and learned all these little things. And then finally, he gets his chance in goal, and we saw what happened with Phoenix last year.
Yeah.
So it's just the ability to understand. Everyone figures out at different times, but
Yeah.
gather all this information, and then when it's your turn, trust the process that when it becomes your turn, you know how many people salvage their opportunities of when they have their chance because they
100%.
were like, you know what, I don't need to listen because I'm not the starter.
Right.
But when it became their time, they weren't able to seize that opportunity because they didn't respect the process in a sense.
And for me here at Houston right now, I am the senior goalkeeper at 27 years old. I'm the oldest goalkeeper here, and it's like I've had this conversation. It's crazy to me, but I've had this conversation with Paul, and I've had this conversation with Kelvin because I still stay in touch with Kelvin, who's on Southampton's first team staff, and because I just respect him, and I respect his opinion and his understanding of the game and everything like that. But I'm now the senior goalkeeper at 27 years old. How often do you hear that's the oldest goalkeeper at a club?
Yeah.
And I have to have days where if I'm having a bad day, I have to recognize it and go, okay, Cody, you're having a bad day today. Today is not your day. Can you be better? But I not only have to be able to do that, I have to be able to go, Michael, you're not having the best day. Okay? My arm's around you. How can I help you? Can I be the leader or can I be the experienced pro that is expected of me? Can I step into that role, and can I make you better on this day where you're not good, as well as myself? Or when the 16-year-old, Logan comes in, or when they call a keeper up from RGV to come train with us, can I help them adapt to the pace? Can I help them adapt to the session? What can I do to help you, but at the same time also keeping me there and bringing them there as well?
Because it makes you better.
Because it makes you better. It pushes you to be a better goalkeeper, player, and person.
Yeah.
Because you're not only looking out for the betterment of yourself, but you're looking out for the betterment of that person and the group, the union, the goalkeeper family, the brotherhood, the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've learned this year, this calendar year, physical calendar year, that you can not only be about yourself. You have to be about the betterment of the people around you, and the maturity level has to be there if you want to step into that role of senior goalkeeper, of experienced goalkeeper, of mature person, leader, husband, friend, son, whatever it is, you have to be
Podcast guest,
right. Podcast guest, sponsored athlete. I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, no, for real. I think those are all great
it all
points.
ties back into each other, and it's amazing how the world works. Like, I know this is getting really like, hey man, like this is philosophical, but, right? Like,
But goalkeeping is philosophical.
But it is, and we're all creatures of habits, and what you do off the field impacts what you do in the locker room, which impacts how the team plays, and ultimately impacts how you play.
Yeah.
And it's a vicious cycle.
It is.
It's a vicious cycle.
It is.
I know we've gone way over an hour, but honestly, dude, I feel like we could go on about this forever because there's just so much great information out there.
For sure.
But I mean, I want to bring up something you brought up, and that you brought up, players coming up to the team and understanding that speed of play is going to be different.
Yeah,
especially a lot of times when
100%.
we're bringing up a player from the second team or the youth academy and bring him to the first team. Speed of play, and they're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
they're
100%.
going to fail. And I think that's one of the toughest things that young kids, not just young kids, but even pros deal with, is that when they come into a new environment, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail. Why? Because it's unfamiliar territory.
Yeah.
You've never been there before. And coaches too. You're going to be in over your head a lot of times when you get a new job because you've never been there before.
But you can't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
And again, this I'm telling you now, the best thing I ever did, do so app, Stuart Singer, I love you, buddy. And I'm building you up because one of his workouts is based around fear of failure. You cannot be afraid to fail. And when you step into an environment that's uncomfortable, you fall into a shell of yourself because you're afraid to fail. But Michael Jordan, one of his greatest comments is, I failed over and over and over again. But that failure got me or created the Michael Jordan that you know today.
Yeah.
Right? The one that you he didn't make his what was it? He didn't make his high school varsity team.
Yeah.
Didn't get, D1 offers, or it was like a few things like that, right?
Yeah. No, I believe what it was is that he didn't make his high school. He got cut from his varsity team.
Yes.
He had to play JV, which is insane to think that Michael Jordan ever played junior varsity basketball.
Correct.
Considering I played varsity soccer like my freshman year, like that's a scary thought to think that. But sorry, I don't want to put myself at the level of Michael Jordan in any way. Maybe as a podcast sidekick, maybe I'll do that. Yeah. Look, but it was that, and then I believe North Carolina. No one said he could play at the level of North Carolina.
Right.
Is that
okay? So you get to that point, and you're like, how does? Sorry, I'm getting like super handsy.
No, it's all good, dude.
My wife.
That's why
my wife gets on.
We got the video so that way.
What do I do with my hands?
That's why you didn't want to hold the microphone.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yes. Yeah. I bet you Jimmy DiMaggio talks with his hands.
I don't know. Hey. But you can't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan failed over and over and over and over again. Somebody told Michael Jordan that he was not good enough. Are you kidding me? Somebody told Kobe Bryant that he wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
How can you look at that and go, okay, well, I'm too afraid to fail? You look at the success that they had, and it's like, these guys failed at some point.
Yeah.
Dude,
why can't I be the next Kobe Bryant? Why can't I be the next Michael Jordan?
I can tell you that every time I got released by a team, and it happened a lot, that I got released by a team, it just motivated me to keep getting that much better.
Yeah, it adds fuel to the fire.
Dude, honestly, and I will say that I had a longer career and played at a higher level than a lot of guys that were way better than me. And that's the first non-self-deprecating thing that I'll say on this podcast.
Well, I'm going to bring it back to a goalkeeper, to the goalkeeping realm, to the goalkeeping world.
Yeah.
Kasper Schmeichel. Look at the list. If you're a kid out there and you're afraid to fail, look at the list of loans that Kasper Schmeichel had as a young pro. It is endless. I mean, endless. Went on loan to League 2 teams, to League 1 teams. He was bought by this team, then went on loan because he wasn't good enough. And now he's one of the best. He's being scouted as the replacement if Man United decide to sell David.
Yeah.
He's the captain of Denmark. I think he's competing with his father right now for Danish caps like most ever. I think he's in that realm, and it's like, how does a guy go from being owned, sold, bought, loaned, this, that, because he wasn't afraid to fail. He went out and he wanted these games. He wanted to play the game, and he wanted to develop, and he learned from X coach, Y coach, Z coach. He learned from this goalkeeper, that goalkeeper, took it all in and found what worked for him. And now he's playing in the Premier League, and he's the captain of Leicester City, who won the Premier League 4 years ago.
So, guys, what you need to do is listen to Cody Cropper, get the Do So app, and you will become.
You will succeed. You will fly.
You will be Kasper
Stewart,
Schmeichel.
I'm expecting free
merch, if anything.
Well, not merch, just free subscription on my phone. Free subscription on my phone to the Do So app. Stewart Singer.
This is amazing. Omar, you got anything else? Because I think we've covered quite a bit here, man.
No, I just saw on Cody's phone the Mamba mentality.
Mamba mentality.
Oh,
I think
okay.
We said it last night at the clinic that we ran.
Yeah, and some of the kids were like, "We don't know what you're."
No, but it was like Kobe. One of Kobe's quotes was, "The fear of failure should not be greater than your fear of failing yourself."
Correct.
And
I think I have that.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's like you should work so hard and like put yourself through so much that you should.
Oh, you legitimately have all his like
everything. Well, this is another one. Everything negative, pressure, challenges are all an opportunity for me to rise.
There we go.
Fear of failure. Yeah, I mean it's true. You don't get better than that. You have to learn from these guys. You have to take in what they have to offer and become the best version of you. Mamba mentality, the definition of Mamba mentality, a constant quest to be the best version of oneself.
Mm-hmm.
And I read that every day every day when I wake up and every day when I go out onto the field.
Really?
Can I be the best version of myself off the field and the best version of myself on the field? And at the end of the day, if my career doesn't turn out the way that I want it, I know that I gave everything that I had. I did everything that I could to be the best version of me.
That's
super philosophical.
No,
like,
but
a great way to end
it is a great way to end it.
Podcast, but it's like
no, it's
super true.
Yeah. It's a great way because the thing is that you're talking about something you can control, and all you can control is yourself and
what you do.
And
that present, like again, that present moment, like you can only control that moment and what you do in that moment and how you are perceived in that moment.
Yeah. I think
I really like.
No. I think that's a great. I think that's a great way.
Sorry, guys.
No, dude. I think it's honestly a great way to end it. Honestly, dude, Cody, like you're such. I mean, dude, your experiences and everything, and running the gamut through the game, and just so knowledgeable outside of the game as well too. Honestly, I really appreciate you coming on. And if like there's any kids out there or coaches and stuff like that ever want to reach out to you, like where's the best place for them to reach out?
DM me on Instagram. I don't have. Well, I have a Twitter account, but I don't.
No, dude, trust me. I tagged you on Twitter, and then I looked at your last tweet. It was like 2017.
Yeah,
I was like,
I don't.
He did not see this.
So like again, like it goes back to the mentality thing. Social media is such a bad way to like get down on yourself because there are guys that'll go, and I used to be one of them where I would go on social media after a game and go and read, oh, Cropper sucks. He let this go in, and it's like, well. You know what? I look at it now and I go, well, what do you think? What do you do for a job?
Yeah.
Do you think you can keep that ball out? Yeah. Please come and do it. Like I understand that's not a fair statement, but like you are good in your world at what you do, and I'm okay in my world at what I do. Like,
I think people need to recognize outside of the game, and a lot of it, and that's one of the tough things for me with fan culture, supporter culture, is a lot of times is that. It's you're
it's
looking
so easy when you're looking from the outside in.
Exactly, and that's
it's true.
And that's honestly one of the tough things for us as media because like we want to balance that line between being like subjective and but having empathy because like we were there as well too. So we want to keep it honest, we want to keep it real, we want to keep it truthful, but at the same time like we do have a job to like report what's going on.
Yeah. I used to do. I mean, I did a lot of breakdowns, and when I was like first getting into the game, just kind of established myself as like not an analyst, but like break down the technique and all that stuff. And as I got more experience, again, like you guys, everyone on the field, and for me, even just watching film, like I started understanding. Oh my God, there's way more context into all these movements.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
And it's like the crazy thing about it. Now I shifted now to instead of asking questions of why did they do this wrong, to what circumstances led to maybe this turning into an emergency save, or why did they choose to go with the wrong knee or something like that. A different perspective. So now it's like you're also not critiquing them, but you're allowing other people to say, okay, well, through the context of the speed of play, because this is at U20 level or whatever, it's like a different speed of play, or this striker's dominant with his left foot, so this is why he decided to cut to this foot, and this is why the goalkeeper was caught off guard. So those little moments now, I'm not like critiquing you, but it's more the kids who are watching, they go, oh, now I understand. Like I shouldn't beat myself up or other goalkeepers up all the time. I should understand the perspective of the speed of play or what they were going through to make that technical and then tactical decision. So it's just the mentality of switching it up a little bit because we're still not critiquing, but now they're seeing how can I not give the benefit of the doubt, but how could I see it from a different perspective where I'm not trying to be negative, but more understanding.
Well, no, you want to see from the point of view of the actual keeper that was in the game.
Exactly.
Because the thing is like I feel that whenever you do any sort of, and I try to do this whenever we do any Champions League breakdowns or MLS breakdowns or anything like that on the podcast of a play, I always try to take it from the standpoint of like, if I was in the game, if I'm that goalkeeper right now, and that's one of the cool things about having people like yourself on who've been through the trenches and gone through the experiences, is that you can actually tell us, okay, like if you watch that video, and I mean if you ever want to come back on, man, and break down games and stuff like that, we always love having people back on to do it because you can say like, okay, I've been to Minnesota and I know exactly what's going on right there.
Or like I've been in that situation
dude, section
and maybe he was thinking this, but looking at it from a slower camera perspective, could I have done this? Or this is why I did this, but I think I could have been better and done this. Yeah,
and I think one of the mistakes a lot of people make in journalism is that they don't start from the two plays back. A lot of times they break down just the save rather than actually starting from how it broke down or how it became a great save in the first place.
Yeah. Well, it's always the goalkeeper's fault. We've always learned this,
we've
right?
always.
It's not just from like a fan or social media or coach or this or that standpoint. It is just literally, it's just always the goalkeeper's fault.
Yeah.
It's just how the world works.
But like if you're watching, if we're watching a tape together, you'd be like, oh well, there's a divot at that field that's over there. Like you guys don't know about that, and like we all know, and like strikers know to hit the ball in that space because it's going to take a weird bounce.
Right.
You know.
Well, it's like playing from grass to turf. Completely different game.
We did literally a whole episode on that. We did about playing on different surfaces because a lot of people
dry grass to wet grass to turf to wet turf to
All right, we've gone off on
playing in wind tunnels to playing in the snow.
We've gone off on so many tangents.
Right.
We've gone off on so many tangents. Maybe we'll have you back on, like when you guys come in on the road and stuff like that into LA. All right, guys, that's all the time on Inside the 18. Remember, contact at Inside the 18 Media if you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion. Please keep leaving those iTunes reviews. They're very valuable for us. That's how people find us. If you want to reach out to Omar Zini, he's got 17 different social media handles, and they're all extremely popular. But the big one is, of course, at ProGK Academy _. And check out the YouTube channel. A lot of cool breakdowns coming up on that YouTube channel. Yeah. And the off-season series with all those USL guys is really awesome for you guys to check out. Sure. Plus the big-time coaches that you got on there. Phil Wedden session going on right now.
Yeah, it was really good.
Next level. So hopefully a Paul Rogers session soon.
Yeah,
just going to call you out right there, Paul, for that.
I'm not involved in that call out, Paul. I just want you to know that.
He'll promote Duso.
Duso app.
Not Paul Rogers.
Yeah. No, I'm not. It's not that I'm not. What's the word I'm looking for here? Wanting Paul Rogers to come on.
You can't speak for him.
It's correct. I can't. And I'm not going to throw him under the bus.
No.
You got to get on the show.
Yeah.
No. Stuart, you can come on the show. Like I'm not afraid to call you out.
I feel like
you don't scare me as much.
I feel like Stuart is going to come on the show.
Stuart's got to come on the show. All right. Like
I feel like next week it's going to be Inside the 18 presented by the Duso app.
Yeah.
So, is it Duso?
No, it's At Well Performance, I believe.
At Well Performance.
Yeah,
Okay.
At Well Performance.
Well Performance. Okay.
Let me. Before we go, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have to get this out there. Let me just get it out there and correct.
This is amazing. I'm not editing any of this. I'm keeping all this.
Why not?
Keep an eye out on Houston Dynamo this year.
Well Performance. Stuart Singer. Yep, that's it. And then he has the Duso app, but it is his Instagram handle is at Well Performance. Check it out.
At Well Performance.
Perfect.
All right, guys.
Sorry, guys.
We're gonna go grab dinner. We're out later, guys.
Thank you.